still trying to sort out the laptop connection to the Wolf ECU. So it's a bit of an uncommon cable. It goes from that port there to this port here on the laptop. So I was speaking to my mate George and Glenn, and been in J-Car, wandered around in circles. George ended up finding a wiring diagram on a rotary forum, and we bought all the parts, and I'm going to go inside now and see if I can assemble one. Then I'll be able to communicate with the ECU. Right, I'll plug the lead in now and see if I can get it to communicate. I haven't tried it yet, so I really do hope that this works and that I can read the map out of the bike correctly as well. How dodgy does that look? Okay, here we go. Let's see if she works. Okay, it's just put a warning up, so something's happening. All right, let's see if we can read the map out of it. Awesome. Pretty happy about that. That all just worked perfectly. So now we've got some real-time sensors showing. I'll go and have a bit of a play and a look at the map and see what I can see. But that's awesome. Good achievement today. Now what we're going to do is connect up this. This is a logger that Glenn from Autosport Electronics has put together for us. So there's the logger. He's made all this harness up, which is awesome. It's pretty much plug and play. And he's dumbed it right down for me, which is great, but he still had to spend about an hour on the phone with me setting it all up. But thanks heaps, Glenn. It's a superb job. So that's going to allow us to use this external map sensor. That's going to show boost and vacuum. Also, we've got a wideband sensor, so that can measure the air-fuel ratio. Throttle position sensor can be tapped into, so that's all good. And he's been able to make up a table or a graph, I suppose you'd say, where we can log these percent load readings, which is specific to this Wolf ECU. So he's made a bit of a calibration chart, so you know it'll make sense to me. I borrowed this pump off Wade from Bunbury KTM. We're able to very carefully put pressure in the system. So I've just teed into the map sensor, into the bike's ECU, then back into this pump. And I was able to then very gently add pressure into the both electronic sensors. So if I let a bit of that air out, you'll see how similar they are throughout. 57, 58. So we're able to basically record the exact same numbers, which is what it needs to be when we try and tune this thing. Here's another look at the logger. All the connections. Dual O2 sensors can be plugged into it. Throttle position. What do we got here? Some outputs to turn things on. Exhaust gas temperature. There's a couple of those. Yep. Communication to the laptop. The CAN bus. Yeah, there's a whole box of tricks over here. Different power supplies. A GPS module. He's done a great job at putting this together for us. Stoked. What I might do, I'll have a bit of a straighten out, see if I can grab another monitor from the shop and make it all look a bit more easier to understand and read when we try and fire the bike up. So I've been down the workshop, I've grabbed the monitor out of the dyno room. So basically the laptop is plugged into the ECU on the bike. So that's got all the Wolf software. also plugged into the laptop, but just on the other monitor is all the stuff that's in the Motec data logger. So that shows the real-time values of the oxygen sensor. So that's my air fuel ratio will pop up here. So when it's too rich in this zone, perfect in the green, and too lean where it's red, just as a rough guide while I'm glancing over there. We've got the tacho, a boost gauge, throttle position, and these numbers relate to what's inside the Wolf ECU. So should make it a bit easier trying to get the thing running and not foul the spark plug straight away with those new injectors. Looks like today might be the day we get to start the bike. We've got the O2 sensor in the header pipe going back to the logger. I just need to add a couple more inputs into the logger. One will be the RPM signal, and the throttle position sensor needs to be recorded as well. We're going to do that by coming up to the back of the ECU and tapping into these wires here to get the correct signals. These are the two wires that we need to tap into for the logger. So basically it's this harness here, black and green. So we'll tap into those two wires and then we can see what the throttle position sensor is doing. I've put the connection in so that we can read the throttle position. Now I've just tapped into this fella here, which is the tacho signal. So we'll heat shrink that up, plug it in, and see if it works. So throttle position, it says here 5, and up there we've got 4%. Okay, throttle position 5, when I open it right up, 107, 106, so that's all in the ballpark. I'll just plug the coils back in because I've got it still with the spark plugs in the coils here. So I'll plug the coils in and plug the injectors in, refit that oxygen sensor, a quick look over it, then we're going to see if it starts. Okay, I pulled 10% of fuel out of it for the bigger injectors. See what happens. Not a great deal. Have to see why she's not starting, I suppose. Basically, the bike's not starting. I'll go back, check if it's got spark, check if it's got power to the injectors, make sure we got fuel happening, see what's going on. I've had a quick look. Basically, it doesn't appear that we have any spark. I'll retrace my steps and see why I've lost it. I think I've found the culprit. While I was doing the wiring up the back, I haven't plugged this guy back in. We'll plug that in and let's have another go. Okay, let's try again. Okay, something not quite right there. It's kicking back on the starter motor. Not sure what's going on here. Not sure. Time to figure out what's going on. I did have a lot of issues early on with this bike having a bad signal from the crank trigger, and it had a lot of interference basically from the coil igniters. It does run past there at the moment, but I don't know if that's the issue or not. I've noticed that the battery is at 12.2, and when I crank it, it does come back a fair bit. So it may be something simple like the battery just doesn't quite have enough grunt to wind the motor over fast enough. So that'll be the easiest option, is to charge a battery or find another battery, because it might be something simple like that. We've gone down to the bike shop, we've grabbed a new battery, we've just fitted that now. We're going to see if it's any better. No, still no better. So we have to dig a bit deeper. I've tried a jumper battery, a few other things. I've even just tried to shield that trigger cable with a bit of garlic bread, and no success. I think I'll end up bringing a plug spanner home from the shop, having a look at the plugs. You never know, it could have actually pumped a bit of oil into the turbo when I had the oil pump wide up back to front. So I need to do a few more checks, I think. Basically it's kicking back on the starter, which leads to being a crank trigger issue, but I might just look at those spark plugs and see if it can shed some light on it. I've pulled the first spark plug out, it's very wet with fuel. I'll pull the other guys out, give them a clean, and try again. Just as we suspected, all 4 spark plugs are very wet. I sprayed them with wax and grease remover, blew them down, they come up pretty good. Let's put them back in, give it another go. Probably a bit hard to see from here, but injector 1 and injector 3 are illuminated, and I don't really remember those being lit up permanently. So I still may have a wiring issue.